retarded. I don't know. It's the worst haircut I ever got.
I'm not sure retarded's the problem.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, it was crooked.
Yeah. All right. I can call this house to order.
Call this house to order. Welcome to Huber House at the University of Vermont, where we're going to have a practice debate carried out by the Lawrence Debate Union. Today's motion is, this House believes that all public restrooms should be unisex. And with that, I'd like to turn the debate over to the chair of this debate, the Honorable David Register.
All right. I'd like to begin the proceedings by asking the Deputy or the Prime Minister for Government to open the debate.
Thank you. Okay, dear government, dear opposition, today we've gathered here to decide if our public restrooms should be unisex or not, should stay the same as they are, or should change in the future. Why do we segregate in the first place? I don't find this reasonable. Where this notion came in the first place? Why do women and men don't want to go to the restrooms together or in the same restrooms? Why is this a problem? I will define first the terms we are arguing today, then I will present my two arguments, and then I will signpost the arguments that my partner in the government will present later. What is public restrooms? Public restrooms are those restrooms available to a general population, like the restaurant bathrooms that are not a home. What is unisex? This is all-inclusive. That is the restrooms that women and men can go to at the same time. My first argument will be that if we start building public restrooms as unisex in the future, from now on, this will greatly reduce the cost for their maintenance, and then will consequently increase their quality because we will have more funds to care about the quality. And my second argument will be that this will increase that public restrooms should not be segregated. They should be unisex because at home we also have them unisex. So this should not be an issue at all. Yes, sir.
At home, do you share the bathroom with strange men?
No, sir, but I don't mind sitting on the same toilet seat as guests that come in my house and go to my bathroom. So these are kind of strange men. So my first argument will be that. My first argument is that in the future, if we start building all the public restrooms, that are many, as unisex, we will have less space occupied by restrooms. Now it's like two different rooms with toilet seats. This will greatly decrease the cost for building, for maintenance, because we will have less seats to clean, less space to clean. We'll have less people to care about the restrooms. This will allow funds and time to increase their quality. We will clean them more frequently, and they will just look better. My second argument is that at home, as I received this point of information, at home we do receive guests from time to time. And these guests are male and female, and they go to our own bathrooms. So why should we create two different bathrooms as we do in the public places, so that women and men do not go to the same bathroom and do not feel comfortable to go to. So I don't think that people in general should feel an issue with this, and that they should want and should require the public places to have different bathrooms for men and women. I think that they in nature feel comfortable to go to the same bathroom. Yes.
But in the bathroom at home, isn't there only one person in the room at a time?
That is true. Yes, that is true. But when you go to the public restroom, you have your own cabin, so you don't go with other people inside. You just go to wash your hands in the sink with other people in the same room. So I don't think this is a problem. How much time do I have?
3.5.
Okay, thank you. So what my partner in the government will present for you is that what the situation now, what the state of nature now is that we segregate and we deny the right for self-expression to people. We kind of discriminate against people because we have those transgender people who feel uncomfortable being required to choose between female and male bathrooms. They probably are in the process of defining their own gender, so they are feeling uncomfortable going to one bathroom that they don't feel their gender is represented correctly, and going to the other bathroom they will be actually shunned from because they go to the different sex bathroom. So I don't think this is appropriate. The government supports the conclusion that bathrooms should be unisex, so that transgender people have their own bathroom to go to and feel comfortable. In a conclusion, I would urge you to vote for the motion that in the future public restrooms will be unisex, because first this will reduce the cost to maintain them, and this will greatly increase their quality because more funds and people, labor will be available to take care of them. Second, this is not in accordance with the accepted standards at home, where we have men and women going to the same bathroom as we do. So it's quite different from the public bathrooms now. So I don't think that people are truly naturally segregating this. And third, as my partner will elaborate on, transgender people will feel very much more comfortable going to unisex bathrooms instead of having to choose between female and male. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for her comments and invite the opening speaker from the opposition to continue the debate.
Thank you. I would like to begin by re-examining the motion as it was set before us. Not necessarily re-examining, but just digging a little bit further than the surface definitions which we were given by the government. All public bathrooms should be unisex. I don't think the key word necessarily here is public bathroom or even unisex, but we on the opposition think that the key word that's really worth debating here is the word all. Because what the government would like to do is issue a mandate on which there are no bathrooms that are not unisex. It is not just that bathrooms should be unisex. When she got up there, the very first thing she said was that we are here to debate should bathrooms be unisex or not. I don't think that's what we're debating at all. In fact, I think that there are bathrooms that should be unisex. But as the government has failed to show, and which we will gladly show, is there are more and better alternatives in having more options, and it's more equitable, which would be our first point. And then our second point will be strictly something you are all familiar with, is that it's a comfort level. I'm sure a lot of you who have gone to the bathroom know exactly what I'm talking about. And then my partner Joe in his speech will bring up the function prospect of having to change all these bathrooms, the logistics of it, and some more details. I would like to go back to my first point, that having only unisex bathrooms is in fact limiting options, and it's less equitable, and it's actually providing less alternative and options. I would just like to say first of all that as regrettable as it is, and as much as I wish it wasn't so, there are people in this country who feel that transgender people are disgusting and dirty people, and they feel threatened by them. And it is so unfortunate that that's true. But the fact remains is that when you're forcing people to do something without the need, is that becomes a much greater problem. Because what happens is that we, the opposition side, propose that we should have unisex bathrooms, but we shouldn't only have unisex bathrooms. We should have unisex bathrooms for those who believe in the sort of things we ought to believe in and stand for the things we ought to believe in, but also that we shouldn't compromise their ability to use public restrooms. We shouldn't compromise we shouldn't compromise and confuse a whole problem which will happen as a result. We're saying no mandate. So, moving on to my second point is, personally, I don't know about you guys, I'm sure many of you probably feel the same way. I don't like going to the bathroom in front of females. It makes me feel a little uncomfortable, to be honest. No thank you. And so, what I think is that can basically be a huge deterrent and hindrance towards being able to enjoy something which you shouldn't have to worry about. I think, for instance, think about an 8-year-old kid. Or no, take it less, take it like 5-year-old kid. 5-year-old kid who's, if you've ever been to a men's bathroom at the urinal, you see they pull their pants down when they pee. Now, that's I remember being very embarrassed when that was happening, and it was like a large reason to make me want to hold it in. But I bet if there were females there and there were women there, I would have a lot more of a problem trying to just pee correctly because I would be naked in front of people who were women, and that was uncomfortable for me.
Sir?
Yes.
Is it not cultural? I believe that it's actually a cultural thing to pee standing up, and that males are not required to do so in all societies.
Excuse me?
Peeing standing up is not a specifically male thing, and that is a cultural thing, and not
Absolutely, but for children who are like 4 years old who are not necessarily potty trained, going to the bathroom in a public place, they do not necessarily have the faculty or the capability to be using those kind of enclosed bathrooms. They have to be there with an adult. They have to do it in a way in which they are necessary. So in terms of being more equitable, once again, you refuse to do so. No, thank you. I just took your point. Also, I would just like to say, no, thank you. In terms of comfort level, that, for example, ultra-religious Orthodox Jewish people who live, well, in Brooklyn, at a neighborhood I pass through all the time, and I eat restaurants in it sometimes, ultra-Orthodox Jewish husbands detest the fact that their wife could be sharing a bathroom with strange men. Not necessarily men, but men that they do not know. That is a religious thing. And I would like to say is that in the interest of those people as well, we should extend the options, extend the opportunity, not only have unisex bathrooms, but for things such as that, for things which is there are things to come in the way of that, you can have another opportunity as well. You can have another option, and I think that's something that we really should consider about what this debate is about. I'd like to go on to refute some of their things really quickly. The first thing she talked about was reducing cost. I don't really know, she hasn't given any examples of how this will happen. We'll have to clean less toilets. I don't know what necessarily that means. She says it will increase the quality of these bathrooms as well. I don't understand how quality will be increased. I know a lot of men who pee on the seat, and I don't think a lot of women would be too happy about that. And if you've ever been to a men's bathroom, you know they are very, very disgusting. She said there's no segregation in reality because we have unisex at home, so we're already used to it. But I would like to say that, as it was brought up in the point of information, this is a very, very different circumstance. I'm sure when he goes to a baseball game or a restaurant and he uses the bathroom, Armand doesn't take an hour, okay? That is strictly something he does in his own comfortable, private environment, and I think that's great, but he shouldn't, but that's completely different, and I think that just speaks to how out of touch that point is. And by the way, there's also a difference between using it with men and women and strange men and women. I think there's a big difference between these people. When you invite someone into your home, they, I think, by definition, become no longer a stranger. Yes, Madeline?
Sir, do you realize that you're not actually going to be going into a stall with a man or a woman at the same time? You're going to have your own cabin, and the only interaction that will take place is when you're washing your hands.
Okay, thank you. I think that that's not necessarily true, because I think that when you go into a bathroom, there's a whole atmosphere that you go into. Like, bathrooms have different functions as well. Like, people do different things in bathrooms, you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, please.
Why do you have the same bathroom at home for both?
Why do we? Because it's totally different when you have strangers.
She's out of order.
You're out of order. And I'll say it anyways, because it's a lot different when you're using it with strangers in your home. As you failed to tell us what the difference is, I've just sort of enlightened you on that point. Now, since I am in my final minute, let me go back and sort of tell you what we're talking about here on the opposition side. We are for more options, not forcing people to do things which they don't want to do, whether it be for unfortunate but very, very real cultural reasons, or because of respected religious beliefs. And we think that it is not worth these risks. Taking these things away is not worth having less toilet seats to clean. I'm sorry, but that's just, the cost-benefit analysis is not weighing. Our impact farly outweighs, and that is why you must vote for the opposition.
All right, I'd like to thank the opening speaker for his remarks and call on the Deputy Prime Minister from the government to continue the debate for the government bench.
Alright, first I am going to refute the arguments made by the first opposition speaker, and then I will elaborate upon the arguments made by my teammate, and then I will bring up new matter. They have made three sound arguments. The first one was all about options and how we are going to, by having all unisex bathrooms, we are eliminating options. And I just like to bring up the point that I'm not sure how it's eliminating an option by having a bathroom that everyone can use. By not having unisex bathrooms, you're eliminating populations that do not identify as male or female and thus do not have a bathroom in which to use. And by creating bathrooms that are unisex, even all bathrooms being unisex, as he brought up, that was important, you're allowing the entire population to have access to that particular thing. It also talks about the embarrassment factor and the comfort level of specifically small children. And how when you're little, you're embarrassed to go to the bathroom in front of people. There are stalls, as the point of information brought up. It's not like you're just going to go pee in front of like 12 people who are just going to stare at you and watch. There's stalls with doors. Even for males, there are stalls with doors. Yes?
I would just like to point out that I said how sometimes that's not appropriate for kids who can't go in there alone, but I'd also like to say that how do you refute the fact that we're increasing options by giving people an alternative? How is giving an alternative not increasing options?
We're giving them an alternative. We're giving them bathrooms that everyone can use. We might not be giving bathrooms that people who are prejudiced will refuse to use them, but everybody else in the world is allowed to use them, and it's their choice to not go in. And there's people right now I know people right now that won't use public restrooms because they have a fear of germs. What are you going to do? Say, here's a completely sanitized bathroom, like hospital sterilization bathroom, specifically for people who are afraid of germs, to increase the options? I think that is a little not reasonable. And also the small children who can't go alone in stalls, they have parents that do that with them. That's how you get potty trained. Your parents teach you, they go with you. It's not like you're going to send a 4-year-old by themselves into a bathroom and say, go pee. Also, they brought up a good point about religion and specifically Orthodox Jewish men and how they're very uncomfortable with their wives and daughters using bathrooms that other strange men and boys are using. But I'd also just like to point out that just being in a public restroom, you're still using it with strangers, whether it's male or female, or whether they're small children or adults. Either way, you're going to be in a bathroom with a bunch of people that you don't know, and the only thing you share in common is washing your hands, and that's only at the sink. I mean, you have a stall, go to the bathroom, you wash your hands, and you get out. You're not going to spend quality amounts of time in there. Yeah, sir.
With Muslim women who do not are against their religion to expose physical features, including their hair or their body form, do you think it would be acceptable in their religion for them to share a bathroom with a man, even if it is just washing their hands? The fact remains, a stall is not a room, and that these people are in the same room using toilets. All right.
They're not showering. They're not taking off their clothes. They're not going to strip down in a public restroom. Public restrooms are to use the bathroom, which means, to like create excrement and to wash your hands and to get out. You're not going to be showering. They're not going to be taking their veil off and revealing themselves in a bathroom. In a stall, they're going to be going to the bathroom, and when they get out, they'll be fully clothed and they'll wash their hands and get out. I don't think it's that big a deal. And now I'm going to move on to expand and many matters, seeing as I don't have a lot of time left. My partner brought up some very good points about efficiency and cost, and also how the ease of maintenance would be increased with unisex bathrooms. If all bathrooms are unisex, we need less bathrooms. There's not going to be one bathroom for males and one for females, and that's twice as much space that people are going to have to clean, and that's twice as many people that have to clean them. By having all unisex bathrooms, there's going to be one room, and one staff will be responsible for that, it'll be more cost effective because you have less people to pay to clean bathrooms. Also, she brought up public versus home life, and I just like to say that's a good point about home life and how you already share a bathroom with a bunch of people, and they brought up a point that they're not totally strangers, but sometimes public restrooms and home restrooms, you do the same things in them. There's two different functions. If you're comfortable showering, you shower at home, you take care of a lot of other needs, and you're comfortable having the rest of your family using the bathroom, I think you're going to be okay being in a stall separated from everybody else through a door and walls, using a restroom with males and females. And then my new matter, unisex bathrooms will increase self-expression. By removing labels in society, we allow a person to express their sexuality and their identity in new and self-affirming ways. People who are questioning their gender, or who are transsexual, or who are not really sure what their sexuality is or their gender, are often very uncomfortable in using public restrooms because they're not sure which restroom to go in. Also, the fact that sometimes a female may choose to dress in such a way that is not stereotypically considered female, and she may be mistaken for a male by other females and be made to feel unwelcome in a female restroom. By creating unisex restrooms, we allow her the opportunity to express herself however she wishes without discrimination. Also, I'd like to bring up that segregation is bad, and the separation of peoples by superficial means is bad. Separation leads to a disconnect between persons labeled differently, which leads to misunderstandings, mistrust, and prejudices. This is how racism and other forms of extreme prejudice were developed. By creating all unisex bathrooms, we are forcing people to interact in more personal ways and to view others who they might not have contact with in more enlightened and open-minded ways. In conclusion, creating all unisex bathrooms is more cost-efficient. It will increase the self-expression of those who are questioning, and it will remove segregation and other prejudices from society.
I would like to thank the Deputy Prime Minister for her comments. Now call upon the second speaker, first opposition, to continue the debate for the opposition bench.
Yeah.
So, I would like to begin with an analysis of some of the points that were brought up by the government team here, and refute some of these points. And then I would like to sort of firm up a point that was made by my partner here, and then introduce some new matter of my own. Okay, so to begin, we have this argument about the increased quality. You decrease costs, and they're cleaned more frequently. Less toilet seats to clean. Now, what about the other side of this? Less toilet seats to clean means that there are less toilet seats to use. Lines are already long in bathrooms. I mean, this is just a practicality argument here. Who at a sporting event has not waited in line? I know that when I've been to basketball games in Boston or football games, I've been in tremendous lines, and if there were half as many bathrooms, forget about it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but that's not always the case. You have so many.
Thank you. Clearly, that is not all the case, but sometimes that is the case. Now onward to this claim that peeing standing up is. It's a cultural thing, and not everybody needs to pee standing, or not all men need to pee standing up. It's true, but I was raised to urinate standing up, and although they may sell devices for women to pee standing up so that it is physically possible, it does not mean that all women must carry these devices, that we should, because it is possible that I can pee sitting down. No, thank you, ma'am. Because it is possible does not mean that it should happen, or that I would even be comfortable with that. Now, that sort of broaches into the larger theme of their entire argument, which essentially is limiting options, okay? And they say that, no, making all bathrooms unisex doesn't limit options, it includes, because everybody is welcome to use the bathroom. What I say is that it limits the option of someone who is uncomfortable using a bathroom. And they say, you're gonna be in your stall by yourself. Stalls are not enclosed. You have open space, and you have the knowledge that people can hear what you're doing. This becomes a huge issue in certain cultural areas. In Japan, for instance, there are buttons attached to toilets in women's bathrooms so that women who do not feel comfortable listening or having other people listen to them urinating, press this button and you have the generic sound of another woman urinating. Yes, ma'am.
You use the term other people listening to her, you don't use the term other males. So I personally feel uncomfortable other women listening to me, not just males, you know? Just
Okay,
all-
yeah, and that's, you're right, but some people do. No, thank you. I'm in the middle of answering another point of information. Some people may feel uncomfortable having other women listen to them, but just think, if that woman was uncomfortable having other women hear, her urinate, then wouldn't she probably be as uncomfortable, if not more uncomfortable, having men hear her urinate? You know, this is, it's strengthening my point. No, thank you. And there was this argument that was just brought up very briefly here. This increased self-expression. How is limiting options increasing self-expression? And I need to, remind yourself, Mr. Speaker, as well as my fellow debaters, that we are not saying that there should not be any unisex bathrooms. We are saying that they should exist as a third option. That not necessarily are we eliminating the idea of unisex bathrooms. We are just saying that not every single bathroom must be unisex. That, I think, is key. Now, continuing on to a point that was made by my partner, we have this idea of comfort level. Okay? These people, men and women and transgender individuals, do not necessarily enjoy or feel comfortable going to the bathroom with members of the opposite sex. Now, we have religious beliefs that may increase this discomfort, as my partner mentioned, the Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn, but universally, and myself during a point of information. Muslim society, Islam is. They have fairly strict cultural beliefs at times, and some of them would clearly limit the idea of unisex bathrooms. And as I just mentioned, there are certain cultural factors that may increase this level of discomfort with sharing a bathroom. Now, on to my new matter. We have the bare function of the bathroom itself. Now, when you have a single room with a single toilet, there's no reason why there should be a label saying that this is a male toilet, or that this is a female toilet, or that this is a toilet for a transgendered individual. This is simply a toilet in a room. And that toilet can be unisex, and that is absolutely fine. But when we have a number of toilets within a single room, that the comfort level is clearly an issue. Now, on to practicality. We have the urinals in male bathrooms. They actually save water. In the Davis Center, they have a completely no-flow urinal system. There's no water involved, and this is incredibly environmentally sound, and I think that is a huge benefit. And if you were to have a unisex bathroom, we would have these urinals may not exist, or they would be replaced by toilets that would flush 5 gallons of water as opposed to having no water. Now, as a means of concluding, I would just like to remind everybody here that the point of the resolution that we take issue with is that all public restrooms should be unisex. We must remind the people and the speaker that we are not for limiting options. We're for creating a more free and open society. I thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank the second speaker for his comments, and that concludes the debate at the first part of the table. I'd like to invite the first speaker from the second government to open the debate for the second table.
Okay, this has been a very interesting debate today. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to bring to the debate that two big things that I think have been overlooked are one, acceptance, and two, social constructions. And the first government started the debate off is why do we segregate? And this has not really been touched on, so I'm going to go on to that about social norms and that segregation really comes down to fairness and how having the division between a male bathroom and a female bathroom is just not fair, and it's a social construction that we need to break down. But first I would like to refute what the government has the opposition has said. Not the government, that would not be good. First of all, he brings in this argument about the 5-year-old boy who doesn't feel comfortable going to the bathroom. Well, by the time he's 10, he will probably feel pretty comfortable going to the bathroom in these unisex bathrooms. So that's kind of a mute argument. And also, that they really have not shown us any major harm to our plan. They've said not given us any reason of why we shouldn't do this, other than somehow we're limiting options. But no, we say we're creating options. People who right now feel oppressed and do not feel comfortable going to the bathroom in public because they are transgender, do not feel comfortable. No, thank you, sirs. Going to the bathroom right now, we're creating that option for them to feel comfortable going to the bathroom. And he said that the comfortable level is clearly an issue. Well, in Slovenia, there were bathrooms in the university where it was both genders, and you had a whole bunch of different stalls that men and women could go into. And the only interaction that took place between the men and women was walking in and out of the washing your hands area. And men and women weren't actually going into the stalls together and watching each other go to the bathroom. So this just is not an issue that they're bringing up to the table, but you'd like to disagree.
Yes, ma'am, inequality stems from undermining opportunity of equality. But how is it that if I don't have equal pay, that's unequal, but yet going to a different bathroom representing a basic biological need, how is that unequal?
Well, because I haven't gotten into my argument yet, because I'm still working on the refutation, but I will get into that. However, I will say that we're creating this inequality this segregation by saying males must go to this bathroom and females must go to this bathroom. But I will get into this later. And also he brings into this argument that there are water efficient urinals and they save a lot of energy, but this is also a mute argument because there are toilets that are water efficient. Thank you. Just as much as there are urinals that can save water, that's something that can be solved for in our plan as well. And also he brings in this Japan example where you can push a button and hear another female going to a bathroom. Well, you can do this in a transgender bathroom too and make all sorts of noises if you don't feel comfortable with the sounds that might be coming out of a different stall. So that's that. Now I'd like to go on to my new argument of social construction and male versus female. Now, by creating a male bathroom and a female bathroom, we're almost perpetuating this ignorance that exists in society today between other people and other parts, and saying we're not exposed at a young age to the differences between a male and a female, and to biological, to basic differences, and we simply don't understand these differences due to the fact that we are shielded from them at such a young age. And the bathroom is something that is a necessity that all people need, and all people, no thank you sir, that all people need to use. And if we can break down this construction of male versus female in such a basic norm, a basic public thing as the bathroom, something that everyone needs, then this could be very good for other parts of society and almost have a ripple over effect. But you seem to disagree.
Ma'am, by that logic, why wear clothes? What's there to hide then?
Well, I don't know. Let's all run around naked too, but that's not what the debate is about right now. But anyways, by creating this segregation between men and female, we perpetuate this gender inequality and certain stereotypes that we have with men and female. And you also, by saying not having unisex bathrooms, not having them, you prevent a group of people from going to the bathroom. And this isn't fair because going to the bathroom is a necessity. You prevent this whole group of people, transgender people, who don't feel comfortable either choosing one bathroom or another, from even going out into society and being exposed because they won't have a place in which they can urinate and take care of their basic bodily functions. And also, I'd like to say that the segregation between male and female is a social construction. It is something that should be broken down at such a basic fundamental level as the bathroom. For example, in Finland, there is no he versus she. They say simply have a word, and something called id or it, and that there's nothing that separates or distinguishes a male and female, and that's what is so bad about having bathrooms that segregate and separate male and female. We're arguing on this side of the table that there should be no separation between male and female, that this is a social norm and something that is socially constructed and is further perpetuates inequalities and differences, and that we should be able to accept the differences that we have with one another. And one of the first steps and first places to do this is in the bathroom. And
On that point,
go ahead.
but the problem with that is that aren't you then basically implying that the values in Scandinavia or those cultures are greater than the values in Islamic cultures or Jewish cultures where it's different? How do you equate and compare these different cultural perspectives?
Not at all. I'm not saying one culture is better over the other. I'm just saying that, well, also about your Islamic or your Muslim examples, you also, the women, as we said before, are not going into the same bathrooms as we're not saying that one culture is better than the other. We're just saying that people should accept the fact that they can go into the same public area that the stalls are in to use a bathroom, and that these social constructions should be broken down. So what I'd like to leave you with is that they have shown us no major harm to why we should not go through with the plan. There's nothing that they have shown other than you might need to wait in lines longer, but you have lines in the status quo, and this debate is not about solving for the massive lines that we have to wait for and going to the bathroom. It'd be great if maybe it was, but that isn't really a big factor. And by proposing this plan, by voting for the government side, you are solving for an issue of social construction and breaking down the social norms between men and women that is so prominent in today's life, and it's the basis of so much segregation and inequalities that we need to solve, and that's why you say you should propose.
Great. I'd like to thank the first speaker for her comments and invite the leader of the second opposition to continue the debate for the opposition bench.
Great. Good afternoon. Today we're here to talk about bathrooms. Or maybe not. We're not actually talking about bathrooms, are we? What we're actually talking about is gender social construction. This is what the government wants to argue. They want to say that we're here to change the world through the restroom. However, what we're going to say is that this isn't the forum to do it. We're not saying that change does not need to take place, but we're saying that this change will be ineffective in the system. With this resolution being affirmed, we're only changing bathrooms, we're not changing our society. You can say that we're making one small step, but in reality, this is actually something that would need to come after other more significant changes. So what I'm going to do is bring up some new matter, and then I'm going to go on to refute and mention some of the harms. Okay, so to begin with, our first new contention are the harms that the government want. Basically what we're saying, and the first opposition did in fact bring this up, is that there is a danger in having unisex bathrooms. Basically, in having all bathrooms be unisex. Let me clarify, sorry. So, if every single bathroom is unisex, there's a danger. Because what happens at a gas station late at night, what happens in bars late at night, what happens in clubs late at night, basically these are situations where it's inappropriate to have unisex bathrooms because yes, you have your own stall, but these are places that say somewhere that doesn't have a lot of traffic going through it. These are places that are isolated where a person could become trapped in an enclosed space, no thanks. And this is a place where there is definitely a danger. So basically, there's also, in addition to the comfort of certain people, there's also a danger of having unisex bathrooms in all situations. Basically, some situations you need to have separate bathrooms. Now, our second, yes?
Ma'am, I beg you, the resolution says public restrooms. Now, for instance, let's say you're in a bar and it's late at night, but that is in itself a private restroom owned by the bar, and therefore your situation is less likely to take place because that private restroom could be segregated all it likes.
Unfortunately, the problem with that is that it was defined as general public in the bathrooms. Yes, private restaurants are a private organization, but that's still a public restroom. Basically, by what they're saying that the general public goes into these places. So a public restroom in a private institution like a bar is a public restroom. So basically, that doesn't apply. Now, going on, our second new contention is that the bathroom is not a change for creating equality. Basically, there are changes that need to be made. Maybe we shouldn't identify between genders. Maybe people shouldn't have to decide if they're male or female. But is the place to change this the bathroom? I mean, what's going to happen? So we change bathrooms, great. But what happens? Does your passport still say you're male or female? Does your college application, do you still have to check a box? When you apply to a job, do you still have to say? When you go to the doctor's office, do you still have to say if you're male or female? With with driver's license, do you still say if you're male or female? Yes. We haven't changed these things. So what the government is going to say is that this is one small step. But basically, maybe this is one small step, but it needs to come at the end. This cannot be a first step because it's not the appropriate thing. Basically, what they're saying, it's going to change the world, and we're saying it's not going to do anything right now. The other changes need to be made first, and that basically the harms outweigh, because while doing this, by trying to get rid of gender through the bathroom, this isn't the appropriate time. Other more significant changes need to be made, but not right now. Not while you still have to say on your passport whether you're male or female. Now, I'd like to go on to refute some of what the government has said. Basically, they're talking about acceptance, that we need to have acceptance. And again, this is the thing that we're going to change the world through the bathroom. Basically, there are appropriate places to have transgender bathrooms. For example, Unisex bathroom. UVM and the new Davis Center, every floor has a unisex bathroom, and that's a great forum to have it because it's a controlled space. It's an enclosed community, and then this is a regulated place. It's a college campus. Yes, Nani?
Well, ma'am, aren't most public spaces controlled spaces and part of communities?
I don't know. If you go into a bar late at night and you look at the state of it, and you might think that it's not exactly a controlled space. You don't know if the staff are actually going in there and checking. You don't know what's going to happen in enclosed dark places, especially places where people are drinking, or that there just are only a few people that use them. So basically, they're saying that in Slovenia, it was great. There were, that there were unisex bathrooms, but we're saying that not every forum is like that. That's not appropriate in every circumstance. And then they're talking about then they're talking about the discomfort of transgender people, and this is a big issue. We do want to watch out for. We want to make sure that everyone feels equal. However, they're talking about how stalls they provide privacy. So basically, this isn't an issue. This isn't as much of an issue as they'd like to say, that basically people do have privacy, and maybe in certain circumstances with certain populations. For instance, UVM understands that has a larger transgender population, so that's why they have some transgender bathrooms, which is appropriate, but not every circumstance is appropriate. Now, she's talking about, in Finnish, they don't have she or he. Basically, we're not going to change our language, we're not going to change our understanding through bathrooms. Maybe we should do it through law, maybe we should do it through education. But basically, bathrooms are not the place to start. People don't understand yet, and still the harms outweigh. So, yeah, man.
Could you just elaborate how the harms outweigh? You just said you have these closed dark spaces, but what are the harms of these closed dark spaces? I still don't understand.
The harms of the closed dark spaces are that if you go into a public bathroom, especially places, as I'm saying, I know I've said several times, but like say you go into a bar late at night and a lot of people are, it's a place where people are drunk. Basically, I don't want to go into a bathroom late at night, and I don't think especially a lot of the women here would not want to go into a bathroom in a bar late at night. If say there were men in there, there's strangers. Now they're talking about that you have strangers you have people in your house, but basically there's no contract. For bathrooms, there is no contract. You don't know who's going to be in them. They can't regulate who goes into a bathroom, and you don't have a fingerprinting to go into the bathroom. You don't know who's going to be in there, and there's a possibility that because some bathrooms are not used very often, because it's an enclosed space, that it could be dangerous. But we're talking about sexual molestation and other things that can happen when you with this kind of situation. So those are the harms. So thanks for letting me clarify that. So, in conclusion, what we're arguing is that basically maybe there are changes that need to be made, but it's not through the bathroom. I just want to say that the House, additionally, that they have not recognized what they're going to do about cultures that do not accept this. They never define the House. So we're not just talking about the U.S. So what about places where men and women, like Muslim men and women, cannot be together in a closed place like Saudi Arabia. So and they haven't addressed the Orthodox Judaism issue either. So basically, in conclusion, that this resolution shouldn't be opposed. Thanks.
All right, I'd like to thank the speaker for her comments and now invite the government whip to close the debate for the government bench.
going to wing this right here. My apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to help crystallize this debate for the government side and really boil it on down to what we're talking about. And so I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about your comfort level, I'm going to talk about gender inequalities, and I'm going to be talking about breaking down ingrained stereotypes in cultures across the world. Now, the opposition brought up the fact that, okay, maybe this should be done, maybe we should break down these stereotypes, but not in the bathroom. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if they're so uncomfortable about that, what's the big deal? And I'll tell you what the big deal is. This is a private thing that goes on, and it's all about your comfort level. But I say it is also the most important aspect where we learn about culture because it is from an early age. And therefore, it provokes this natural reaction of, this seems right. This doesn't seem right, and this is, somehow wrong in some way. To have the same gender in an enclosed space, no. So I think that since we learn this from an early age, this is why we should use the bathroom as a forum for breaking down gender stereotypes. Because, as their example proves, when you're a little kid and you're learning this from your parents, you're still confused about why there's such a separation and, oh, my family's so close together, why do we all have to go split off? So why shouldn't we just start from the very beginning? And I know the change is going to be hard because as we have learned in this society, it feels kind of, sometimes it makes us a little uncomfortable, but we should get over that. We should not separate between gender. Sir?
You said, and I quote, it's all about the comfort level. So how does decreasing the comfort level of vastly more people do us any positive good?
What I was illustrating with that point is that it's all about the comfort level, which is why we're resistant to use the bathroom as a forum. But I'm saying if we are going to sacrifice our comfort level, which is purely aesthetic, purely in our mind, is purely ingrained in there through our culture, we should break down the cultural stereotypes. And then years from now, we'll look back on this segregation as barbaric, as we once segregated African Americans and white people. We will say, why did we break these two people up into different categories on such a fundamental basis, ma'am?
But Sam, how are you going to change the way people think when passports still identify male or female, when your job application still identifies male and female, and where people are still identified as male and female?
Thank you for segueing into my new argument, which is that we need to break down cultural stereotypes throughout all of society, and this is just one of the ways we're doing it. This is a small step. This is not the complete solution, but it is a start to the solution, and it is a good first start. Now, I'd also like to use the opposition arguments about how in some religions what we're proposing would be absolutely unacceptable. And I would like to say that I would not advocate for religious discrimination, but I will say that in these religions, women are discriminated against. These are patriarchal societies where it is normally the women segregated off, the women are treated as second-class citizens, and why should we say this is right? Times are changing in religions. Women are allowed to do different things than they used to. There's controversy about, should women be allowed into the priesthood? And we are questioning these. Even in the fundamental dogma of some very old religions, we are questioning, why are we separating male and female? So I'd say, let's get the ball rolling with this as well. Yes, ma'am.
Sam, you come from a society where women are paid less than men, where he signifies both men and women. How can you criticize other societies for treating women worse?
Well, I'm saying, why don't we want to change that? Is that we're saying that people are starting to recognize that that isn't inherently wrong, and so we should try to change that, and this is the way we should try to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I'd like to say that we need to start from the very beginning. And if the bathroom has to be the place for it, then this is the way it should be. It is a start, and it is a start that will be effective over time. We might feel a little bit uncomfortable now because we are facing the reality that throughout society we discriminate based on gender down to the very functional level. So in conclusion, I beg you to propose.
All right, I'd like to thank the government whip for his comments, and now I call on the opposition whip to close the debate. Just enough.
Mr. Speaker, I have never seen individuals have so much faith in a bathroom before. I applaud that faith, I'm impressed by it, but the bottom line is that this does not change the reality of the ground. That ultimately this resolution will not equal the kinds of ideas or the kinds of goals our opponents have in this debate. This debate will not further the causes of equality and whatnot that our opponents have argued here. And I'd like to go right into this and dedicate this speech to sort of essentially breaking down this debate, crystallizing it, understanding what it really comes down to, and what we've heard over the round. So first off, the government got up and asked the question. They began the debate by asking, why segregate? Then they talked about how ultimately it's about equal treatment and how we need to look at this in that kind of lens. But the problem is that you're ignoring certain cultural sensibilities here. In saying this, you're essentially arguing that certain cultures and groups and minorities, such as transgender individuals, have more rights than, let's say, Orthodox Jews or Orthodox Muslims. And that's a problem because it's difficult to weigh what minorities have more rights over others. And to simply dismiss certain entire religions as, oh, they're very backward and conservative, they need to change, they need to allow women, that's very insulting, frankly. And we are approaching this from a Western-centric view, and that's the wrong kind of way to look at this. So then they went on to talk about self-expression. And in fact, well, one of the government speakers said, quote, we need to have this resolution to interact in more personal ways. Ladies and gentlemen, the release of fecal matter is not a social event. I'm not sure where our opponents are getting this idea from. You go to a bathroom to release waste, biological waste, not to interact with individuals and have a good time. Do that at a party, for heaven's sake. So to suggest that this is what a bathroom should be used for makes no sense to me whatsoever. It just seems erroneous and frankly silly. Yes, ma'am.
Interaction is not necessarily talking and chatting it up. Interaction is also just being in the same location, in the same enclosed space on a daily basis.
So you're suggesting that when I go to release urinal waste, if I have a female next to me, the fact that she's also releasing urinal waste, this somehow encourages more interaction between us and allows me to feel a stronger bond with them? I'm afraid I just don't see that, ma'am. I'm afraid I really don't see how that takes place. Then, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I think you're blowing this out of proportion. Do you not think that by being exposed to the same place, being exposed to a public, having to just walk past one another, is that not a form of interaction?
Thank you. Well, I mean, I think by that logic, we should just stop wearing clothes then. I mean, that would open interaction. We could see what exactly is underneath everything. We could understand the anatomical differences between us in that way, if that's what you want to do. But I don't see how a 1 minute, when I go to a bathroom, I'm there to release excrement. I don't think I'm focused on trying to socialize or view other people. When we walk in general, we can see other people, but I don't see how going into a bathroom will somehow allow me that split second if I see a woman walk in there as well. I don't see how that'll foster a greater appreciation for my fellow female or female male. I don't see how that will take place if I simply go to a bathroom to release biological waste. Now, please allow me to continue. So now, after we raised these issues and the concern of safety, essentially, then our opponents said, well, don't worry about this because in a bathroom there exists a certain cabin. Now, this is simply ridiculous because this does not amount to complete safety. I remind you of the example of Senator Larry Craig. Now, this happened very recently where a sitting U.S. Senator, in fact, harassed other males in a men's room in a Minnesota airport. This shows us that in the end, the creation of a stall does nothing to protect individuals. If that were the case, why would we see so many other examples of molestations, of rape, of sexual harassment that have taken place in bathrooms throughout the country and the world? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if we have two different bathrooms for males and females, I argue that there is a single hall that leads to the restrooms, like there's a door that says restrooms in the restroom, for example. Then you have the two different doors for the restroom. So there is still a dark and enclosed space before these bathrooms. It's not an issue of unisex or non-unisex bathrooms. You still have this hole where danger can happen.
I think, well, okay, then your statement suggests to me that you're afraid that if there are two different doors, it suggests in my mind that men and women are different, and it fosters a mentality in my mind that I'm superior. And that gets me to another argument you've talked about this whole gender construction. I'm glad you're bringing it up. The problem is when I use the bathroom in a men's room, and I know that women use a different bathroom, I don't tell myself I'm superior. All that tells me is that there are certain biological differences between how a man in a bathroom uses the restroom. It isn't, however, something like unequal pay, unequal opportunity, if I'm paid more than women are, or if I have more job opportunities than women, or if I'm given more rights than women, yes, then that will foster in my mind a mentality I'm superior. But all I learned from using a different bathroom than women is the simple fact that we have different biological needs and we release urine in different ways, or release fecal matter in different ways. That's all it tells me. It does not foster any kind of stereotype in my mind whatsoever. What is this stereotype? I do not see what the stereotype is. Yes, ma'am?
If it doesn't foster any kind of stereotype, then why segregate in the first place?
This is not segregation, ma'am. This is simply allowing individuals to release excrement in a manner that is comfortable to society. That's why we've had different bathrooms to begin with. I do not see a massive movement to abolish the system. Even the most radical feminists have not openly advocated this. That's not what this is about. This is simply a scientific issue here. It's not about social change. And again, if you're worried about transgender individuals, then the best way to approach that is to have an open dialogue. And that's what I'd like to conclude my statement here, because that's what this debate ultimately has come down to. The only real issue that I see that stands somewhat valid is concern for transgender individuals. But as my partner pointed out, if that's what it comes down to, the best way to look at that is to open a dialogue, to look at society as a whole and to fundamentally change the way we understand what gender means. Having unisex bathrooms will not do that. Instead, sitting down with transgender individuals, having conferences with them, understanding what they go through, changing laws in general, perhaps changing the way applications are designed, changing the idea of having gender statements in government documents. That's what can breed this kind of fundamental change. But a small step in changing bathrooms will not do that, because the problem is our opponents have looked at what this bathroom differentiation means on a flawed logic, and the logic is that it's about equality. But as we've talked about in this debate, it's not about equality, it's a small differentiation for biological needs. And the way to have greater equality is to simply have dialogue and to change rights and to make sure there's equality of opportunity, not equality of space to release excrement. And that's what this debate really is about. Thank you very much.
Good job, guys. Good job.
Hey, I didn't see you cross the aisle.